own far, far, far too many books, and I definitely want to get my shelves down to a much more reasonable level. At the beginning of the year, I made a goal to buy less and to make my shelves look like something that I loved and represent what I loved. I love having a variety of books, so I still want to have a pretty big TBR, but I was finding myself getting overwhelmed with the number of options that I had. So that's where one shelf came in, which was helping me to read down my TBR one shelf at a time until I got it to a much more reasonable level. I cannot believe that we are going into the final episode of this for 2025. I started the year wanting to get my shelf down to a reasonable 100 books, and so far we've done a decent job of that. We definitely started at a much higher level than where we're at now. So we started with 204 and we are now down to 163 unread books, which feels very solid. Like, that is 40 books that I have managed to either unhaul or read and get off of my physical TBR, and I have actually hauled less this year than I did last year, currently at 89 books. I'll have to go back and look and see exactly how many I hauled last year, but it was more than that, I do know that much. I just came off of the Goodreads Choice Awards where I read nothing but romance to try to figure out what I liked in romance, so I think I want to go back to my roots. I need to pick up a romantasy or a fantasy of some kind and get me back like in my normal reading genre, because I definitely got a little bit burnt out of reading only romance. So what I decided to do was put all of my romantasy books on a spinner wheel together, and we're just going to spin and see what book I get. Whatever shelf that book is on is going to be the shelf that I will read, and we'll start with whatever book I spun for. I'm a little nervous because this takes all of the control out of my hands, and I was hoping to have a teeny tiny bit more control than I currently do, but spinner wheel feels right for the end of the year. Let's pull it up and see what I'm going to be starting with for this vlog. Okay. I have to take back my caveat that I was going to start with the book that we spun for, because Mother of Death and Dawn is book 3 in a series. However, there is a shelf that it sits on, is right there, and I really do need to read this series. The first book, Daughter of No Worlds, is actually on my self-destruct, and so if I don't read this by the end of December, I have to unhaul the whole series. So it's kind of perfect that it ended up being spun for, but also I've been avoiding this series with every fiber of my being, and now I have to read it. But like, so let me show you everything that's on the shelf, but it's gonna be a big undertaking. This shelf's got a lot of unread books on it. So this is the shelf that we are currently working with. You will not be able to see me if I try to get in frame with that, but this is our current situation. Fortunately, I have already read The Beast that is in Anthema, and Eldrick does not have a physical book, so while I have started it and need to finish it by the end of the year, I don't have to worry about it in this vlog. The Osseous Chronicles actually has 3 books in it. This is the entire trilogy. Be thinking of me for this one because this is 3 books. It's not that chunky, even though it is 3 books. It's only like, well, it's 800 pages, but for 3 books, it could be a lot worse. I also need to read In Their Woods by Ivy Asher and Ann Denton. These books actually came together from Arcane. I have heard good things about this one, but I'm a little bit scared of it. Thankfully, it's pretty short, and hopefully we'll read very quickly. Then we have the 3 Beast, and the stars of this video is the Daughter of No Worlds War of Lost Hearts trilogy. I don't want to get rid of these. Like, look at how stunning that cover is. I want to be able to keep them on my shelves for forever on my Carissa Broadbent shelf, but I need to read them and decide if this is a series that I'm actually going to enjoy and want to continue, or if it's a series that I do not want to move forward with. Now, with the caveat that when I have more than 5 books on the shelf, and right now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then whatever's down here, I can veto 1 book per 5 books on the shelf. So if I read Daughter of No Worlds and I like it, but I'm starting to get like bogged down, because you know me and sometimes binging series when they're long and chunky like this, we're just gonna see how it goes. I can veto this final book and save it for later if I need to, just because I want to keep my sanity and not get in a slump, but I'm not gonna preemptively veto because I'm hoping that I will love this series and want to binge straight through it, but we shall see. And then over here we actually have 3 Kinds of Lucky. This is a new book by Kim Harrison, which she's written like some really fun paranormal romances, and I actually did not read from this author back in my paranormal Romance Days, and this is a new one from her. I don't really know anything about it, but this is the cover to cover edition, and it's really, really pretty. So I'm hoping that I end up loving this one. It's a new addition to my TBR, which is just unfortunate that this is the shelf that it needed to go on. So that's the shelf we're starting with, and we're gonna see what it looks like when we're done. It has started. I'm 100 pages exactly into Daughter of No Worlds, and this is about Tasana. Her people and herself were enslaved when she was a teenager. She kind of gave herself up to save her mother, and she has been working to try to get her freedom back from the slaver ever since, so she can go to this land and join something called the Orders, which she thinks is going to help free her people. She gets there, she's on death's doorstep, and she just begs them to essentially let her in. They do decide to, but there's one requirement that she has to complete this training, which is usually 5 years long before she can be accepted into the Orders. And in order to do that, there has to be a mentor. She's past time. There's no mentors left except for one, and he has sworn that he was never going to do anything to help the Orders again, so enter Max. That is really all I've gotten to so far, is her getting this mentor and starting this training. The world is pretty cool. We know that she is something called fragmented, but I don't fully understand what fragmented means yet. I think it's somebody that has like less magical ability than the true, is it Valacians? I'm not 100% positive on that, but I'm just so happy to be back in a fantasy world. I love the little intricacies and the world building and how all of that comes together. I have heard that Tasana is a pretty like soft character, which honestly I was a little bit nervous about. Typically I like that stabby, revenge filled female main character, but at least in the beginning of this, she's not reading super soft to me. I am liking her. She knows what she wants. She's not afraid to demand what she wants and go after it. And I think that it's interesting the way that she's doing like the challenging in language and things like that. She and Max have just briefly met, so I don't really know how the romance is gonna go yet, but I think the world building is interesting. There is one thing that completely took me out of the story though, and I don't think it's a spoiler, it's pretty early on, but essentially when she gets there, they tell her that they're not going to help her. They're going to deport her back to where she came from. But then within one sentence, they flip that and suddenly it's okay and they're going to do everything they can to get her a mentor. It did take me out of the story a little bit because I'm like, the motivation just didn't make sense to me. And I am a little bit concerned that that's going to continue to be the case, but I hope not. I am willing to look past it as long as there's a reason later, but I just feel like there should have been something hinted at to make me buy it. I don't know. I'm officially to the halfway point and part 2 of Daughter of No Worlds. And I think that this one has been a little slower for me than I was expecting it to be on the setup and like getting to know all of the characters in the world. Right now, she's doing a lot of training and I am a little bit bored. I don't really need it to be drawn out as long as it is, or I want to be able to see more of the training, but I feel like we talk about it and then they flip to a different place and this like big scene happens very quickly and then they go back to training and then they flip to another place and this big thing happens very quickly and then they flip back. And I just don't feel like I'm getting a really good understanding of anything with it doing that. I don't really feel like I'm getting to know Max or Tasana's character super well. I don't see the extreme depth between them or between their characters in like general. But I also am missing this like intricate world building that I hear about. I do want the romance to exist, and right now we're definitely getting hints of it about them overly caring for one another, but I just don't feel like I'm getting as much chemistry as I want. Along with the fact that the world building feels like it's taking a back burner, I'm just waiting for there to be something that I can latch onto. So right now I just feel very meh about this. It's not bad, it's just not hooking me either. But the very end of part 1 did give us a hint of what is to come, and if it is what I think it is, it's one of my favorite tropes in books. So I'm hoping that I'm right. I'm hoping that that really does expand the world and the magic system and maybe even give us a little bit more insight into Max and Tasana's relationship because of this catalyst. That's my hope, that's my goal, that's what I think is going to happen, but I just need something to jumpstart this a little bit because right now I'm just very bored. So I'm gonna go finish this and hopefully things will start to turn around for me. Right now it just feels like a 3-star. It's middle of the road, it's fine. It's not something I dislike, but it's definitely not a series that's gonna stick with me unless something changes. I finally finished Daughter of No Worlds and I have thoughts. I'm going to be giving this a 3-star, so I did enjoy it, but please don't hate me for my final thoughts and opinions. The good. I liked the world in this. I do think that I wish we had gotten a little bit more world building. Surprisingly, I felt like it was a lot of setup and a lot of her being with him and like having to do this training thing, but then they weren't actually training. So I felt like the first half or so of the story was just really slow and drug out for absolutely no reason. Then when we got to the trope that I really enjoy, things did start to pick up a little bit, and the ending definitely left off with a bang. So there's a lot of potential in the world for me to continue to enjoy the story. Actually didn't mind Tasana. I want a little bit more depth from her, I think, but I did like her resilience and her determination. Max, on the other hand, don't come for me. So Max, okay. I don't dislike Max, but I don't feel like he has much personality. I feel like he was just kind of there to create a romance and not necessarily there to do a lot. I do know that he has bearing on the like second half plot device that comes in. Like, I get that and I understand why he was there and I understand the backstory that was created through that, but I didn't feel it as much as I wanted to. And because of that, I kind of feel like if you had removed him from the story would have remained the same. I don't necessarily think his character was integral to having this particular plot and moving the story forward. I just feel like it was there for the romance, and the romance didn't really play any bearing on the story either. Like, it just kind of existed in the background and I never really was invested in it either. So remove him and I still would have had a very similar story. It actually gives me Eska vibes a little bit without the romance, mostly in just the trope and plot device and kind of the way that that's handled, but it did give me a little bit of Eska vibes, which is Along the Razor's Edge by Rob J. Hayes. So I did really enjoy that part. So don't come for me about the Max thing. Like, I'm hoping that he will really start to come into his own. I will get more backstory. I will understand his character a little bit more in the second book, which I'll be going into pretty soon. Obviously, it's still on the shelf, but I just wanted more from him and therefore more from their relationship as a whole. But I see the potential in this book. Like, I see the ability for a cool world. I see the ability for a trope that I love. I see the ability for a strong female lead. I think that it's there, but I didn't get as much as I wanted to in this first book. So 3-star with potential. And we are now finished with the book that I've been putting off for a very, very, very long time. Oh, I'm about to fall off my chair. Okay, we're gonna scoot forward just a little bit so that I don't completely fall in the floor. I came to tell you about Into Their Woods by Ivy Asher and Ann Denton, but like apparently I have no balance today. I'm enjoying this. I'm listening to... Ollie's about to fall too. We're all just falling today. I have been listening to the audiobook of this and I'm really liking the audiobook. I think that the narration is very well done. It's just such an easy read. I do like the way that this duo writes. They definitely have some like moments that have made me giggle and some that I'm like, oh, we said that. That was a little bit cringy, but I also think that this is just a very quick, easy to just pop in and enjoy the time kind of read. We have Noah and she is on her way to a new job at a vet clinic. She's always had a wandering spirit and she ends up needing food and gas. She decides to stop in this small town when she essentially gets kidnapped, finds herself in the woods, and there is a wolf staring her down. She gets mauled. Then she wakes up the next day to realize that there may be more to this sleepy small town than she ever thought, and she might have found herself in a bit of a pickle with werewolves shifters. I do like the vibes of this book so far. I liked the small town kind of vibes. It almost made me feel like I was reading about Halloween Town a little bit, the way that it was described. I do wish we will get more of that because I think that that atmosphere, I really enjoyed that small town atmosphere. And we have moved away from that a little bit toward the, 30% mark of the book. I do like that we are allowing Noah to process what happened to her and not really like just gloss over it, because I don't know about you, but if I was attacked by a wolf and then woke up the next day with no injuries, I would have questions. I would have a lot of questions. I wouldn't believe what anyone told me and I would be freaking terrified. So I feel like it's very realistic to me in the way that Noah is kind of panicking and freaking out. And I am enjoying seeing how all of the guys, because this is a white shoes, by the way, seeing how all of the guys are reacting and handling this. I think that that's been very interesting for me. I do feel like it's drug on just a little bit and I'm ready for more of the plot to start picking up. There are hints that there's something else going on here and that she was targeted for a reason, but we don't know what that was. So I'm hoping we'll get a little bit more of the murder mystery side of things and that will continue to develop. But so far I like the writing. I think the setup is interesting and I'm excited to continue it. I have somehow acquired the sniffles. How did I acquire the sniffles? I don't have time to be sick, so we're just gonna make do, tough it up. It's gonna be great. I did want to let you guys know though that I'm halfway into the woods, or into their woods. Yeah, into their woods. And I'm maybe actually a little over halfway into this at this point. I do think it slowed down a little bit here in the middle portion of the book. I just don't feel like a lot is happening. We're not really moving the plot forward. There's a lot of time being had with the men and Noah trying to ease her into this situation because it did scare her, because it is such a foreign concept to her. They don't want to just throw her to the wolves without giving her a little time to adjust. So it's basically a get to know you session, which is fine, but I do feel like that's a little bit boring. I don't mind the guys, but I wouldn't say that there's any of them that I'm just like head over heels absolutely obsessed with. I like all of them, but I'm not obsessed with any of them. I feel like we are getting to see their personalities, but their personalities feel very similar to one another. They're all pretty much good guys except for one, and they have a very similar like outlook on things and the way that they're handling things. They are romantic, so if you like a romantic guy, then this could work really well for you. And they're easing her into the situation. So I'm hoping that once we get kind of through this patch, things will start to get a little bit more exciting. And the plot of like, why did she get put in this run in the first place? Like that will start to come up because I am very curious about that. And I want that to be a bigger part of the story than it currently is. I am enjoying how slow burn this is though. It's not like one of those where they just jumped into bed on day one. She like had this happen to her and then the next day everything was fine and they were all sleeping together. This is a very, very, very slow burn. Why choose? Like even at halfway, we haven't had any spicy scenes yet. There's definitely hints of attraction, but nothing that has been like on page spice. So if you're looking to dip your toes into why choose, I could actually see this being a really good place to start. So I feel like it's taking me ages to read this though. It's so short, so I don't know why it's taking me so long. The audiobook's really easy to listen to, but I should be able to finish this pretty quickly. Right now it feels like a 3.5, could be rounded up to a 4-star. So I'm hoping that it continues on the trajectory because I am enjoying it. Final update time on Into Their Woods. I ended up really enjoying this. I think that this book just does a lot of things differently than what I've come to expect in Shifters. It definitely gave our female main character a lot of time to process this whole being claimed by 4 men thing. And I liked that because normally it's just like you come into this world that you've never known anything about before, then all of a sudden you're thrown into it. These crazy things happen to you that you never would have believed before, and you're just supposed to be suddenly okay with it and then falls head over heels in love with all of the men and life is history. That's not as realistic, so I do like that this took that approach. I liked the side plot of where did she come from, who are her parents, how is she a shifter, that kind of thing, and I think that that's going to play a much bigger role in the second book. It definitely leaves off on a cliffhanger, and I have heard no indication of when or if they're going to be writing book 2. I'm assuming they will be, but like there's no plans in the works as far as I know currently. And I was actually curious, because this world does involve witches and vampires and shifters, if this book was going to stand on its own and then the next books were going to be a different like type of character in this land of Eerie, but that's definitely not the case with the way that this left off. It's absolutely going to be continuing Noah's storyline, but I did enjoy that. I think for me, I loved the slow burn of this. Once we hit the spiciness, it came on a little too strong in my opinion, which is my biggest downfall and biggest complaint a lot of times with slow burn. Is once we get to the romance part of it where everybody is willing to bang one another, that's all they do for 4 chapters straight. Same thing that happened in this one. And I am not a huge fan of the marking your territory type thing that comes with shifters and wolf romances. It's a very common thing. It's in all of them. I know that that's like natural instinct for wolves in general, but it's not my favorite thing. So I do tend to skim over those scenes because it's not what works for me. It's not what floats my boat, for lack of a better way to put it. So I did skim over those scenes, and then one of the guys started nicknaming her Kitten, which I cannot stand. It's the worst nickname of all nicknames to ever exist. But it was very mild. It was at the end. It just still, I have to rant about it a little bit because first of all, she's not a cat. Second of all, kitten is a word that people like to use for other things that I still don't think that they should use it for, and like it's just bad. Like don't do it. Don't use kitten in your books. If you are an author, let this be a PSA to you that is not the nickname that you want to go with, okay? Okay. So anyway, I think I'm gonna end up giving this a 4-star in the end. There were several things that I liked about it. I enjoyed my journey with it. I will be reading the second book, but there were just a few things that kept me from being like fully immersed in it, and I do think that was a little bit of a slowness in the middle, and then all of the sex scenes being at the end that I ended up skimming probably the last 10% of the book because I just wasn't interested in that. But part of that's a me thing. So if you enjoy shifter romances, if you enjoy paranormal romances, or if you want to dip your toes into YQs, I think this could be a good place to start because of how slow burn it was. And I enjoyed their writing. I think that it was fun. Definitely some cringy moments, which I already told you about, but overall it was a good time. So this one is done. Let's get this back on the shelf and pick up our next book. Walter is literally preventing me from sitting in my seat. I don't know if you can see his ears. Can you see him? Can I sit there? Excuse you. Like, he will not move. Okay, well, we're gonna do the best we can on the corner of my seat. I'm about to lock in for some ghost hunting for the evening, but before I do that, I did want to tell you guys that I made it to halfway in the first book of the Osseous Chronicles, which is The Bone Witch. This is a bind-up of all 3 of them, and it is literally stunning. Like, I don't know how Arcane does it, but they knock these editions out of the park. It's incredible. So I'm really hoping that I love these. So in this world, we have different types of witches. There's bone, blood, soul, and they have different powers, but your family essentially only has magic if you're like the head of the family, I think. And then when the head of the family dies, they pass magic down to the next deserving family member. Lennox is a massage therapist. She's living her life because of some things that have happened in her past. She wants nothing to do with the magical world. Oh, Wilder got down, so I can back up. So she is shocked when she gets home one day and finds the bag of bones that mean that she is the next leader and Osseous witch in her home. Also means that her grandmother has recently died, so she's really struggling with that, but she also doesn't want anything to do with magic, doesn't know what she's even supposed to be doing with them, much less figuring out like how to make this work. So she starts off trying to figure out how to bind with the bones so that her sleazy family members don't do it, and in the process ends up meeting a guy named Rogan. He says that he needs her help, and in order to get her help, he binds her to him like a familiar, and he is going to make her help him find his missing brother. I think that for me in the beginning of this, everything's a little bit too easy. We're trying very hard to be like quirky main character, which is fine, but it can be a little overdone at times with some of the like childish jokes and things. But I don't mind Lennox as a main character. I think that she is going to be fun, but I do think that her figuring out how to do magic came on a little too quickly and a little too strong. I think that we definitely needed a little bit more time for her to figure things out and it not come so innately easily, because we talk so much about her not knowing what magic is and not knowing how to do things and not knowing anything about the magical world. I did want her to take her time a little bit more. Her and Rogan's dynamic is fine. I think this is supposed to be a romance, but right now I don't really feel like a super romantic connection between the two of them, but their quips are very funny. And then I think that the pacing just needs to be a little bit faster. We're doing a lot of just wandering around aimlessly. She's helping people, but the helping people part is not really like having any bearing on the story, so it just feels like it's existing there to fill moments, and I need there to be a little bit more substance to what we're getting so far. But I think that the different types of magic and witches are really cool. How magic is passed down is really, really interesting, so I'm excited to learn more and to become more invested in this story. But right now it's just a quick, easy read. Official final update on the Bone Witch. I think I'm giving this like a 2.5 rounded up to a 3-star. I just felt like it was kind of boring overall. There was not enough going on for me. There were a lot of words and not a lot happening until the end of the book. And the end of the book I did think was starting to pick up. We had like more conversations, more players come in. So I did like the ending, but I feel like just everything setting up in between just was so drawn out. And this book is not that long, so for me to feel like it was was drawn out is really kind of saying a lot. I just needed more substance. We don't have a lot of backstory. We don't have a lot of depth to either of our main characters. And then for there not to be any real side characters, it was just, I don't know, it just wasn't really working. It was slow. So I don't really have a lot to say, honestly. It was fine, but it was just kind of mediocre for me. I'm giving that the 2.5 stars, a very like run-of-the-mill, middle-of-the-road kind of book, but there is setup for book 2, so I'm hoping that I end up enjoying the second book better. I am gonna go ahead, I think, and read this whole trilogy for a couple of reasons. One, this edition is really pretty and I don't want to get rid of it unless I have to, and two, they're very short. This whole bind up is only like 750 pages and it's 3 books. So they're what, less than 300 pages a piece. So I definitely will finish out the trilogy, and I can see it being one of those trilogies that I like, but I'm not obsessed with. Like I had fun with, they were solid 3-star enjoyable reads, but not anything that like blew me away is kind of where it feels like this is gonna go, but maybe book 2 will completely surprise me. Okay, so I have started and actually made a really good dent in the Blood Witch, which is the second book in the Osseous Chronicles. Had to take Wilder to the vet today. He and Bryn got into it and he got his eye scratched. He's fine. She checked. He does not have a scratch or anything like that. She just gave him some eye goop with an antibiotic, just in case it started to get infected or he had like conjunctivitis or something. But my vet is a very long way away, so I was able to listen to a decent portion of this book. I think for these, I may end up updating you more like halfway in the end because they are so short. They don't have as much to say about them in the very beginning. But anyway, I am enjoying the second book a lot more. I think that more is happening. We picked up right where the first book left off, and I'm not really going to give you a huge synopsis because you just heard it from the Bone Witch, but I think that the characters are getting a little bit more depth. We're starting to learn more about Rogan's backstory and his family and how all of that works, as well as hers. I think that I'm going to like the direction that it is heading toward the end and toward the third book in the series, but I still feel like they're just generally fine. The world building is okay. The romance is not really catching my attention. Like, they exist and you can tell there's supposed to be a romance there, but even at this point, not a lot has happened as far as romantic things concerned, and I just find it to be a little bit dull. They work together and they exist in the world together, but like the banter is not great. You can tell that they are slightly attracted to one another but have significantly higher priorities, which is fine, but this feels like it's supposed to be a romantasy that doesn't have any romance in it. So I am struggling a little bit with that because the dynamic is weird. It doesn't feel like a urban fantasy per se. It doesn't really have enough plot in it for that, but it also doesn't feel like a romantasy either. So I'm just a little bit confused as to what these series are trying to do, but I am liking book 2 better and I'm hoping that I will continue to like it better. So I anticipate finishing it today. I'll update you guys once I'm done. I have also made progress though. I meant to update you guys before now, but we're gonna do a quick first clip update of Children of Fallen Gods. I have been listening to this one and physically reading this one. I don't mind the audio for this, but I feel like I'm in the minority where Tisana doesn't bother me and Max is just annoying on audio. So I've been prioritizing this physically. The second book picks up pretty much right where the first one left off, and we are getting a little bit more into the world. We actually got a new POV in this one that I'm very, very interested in, that is set in a different part of the world that will hopefully expand the magic system and expand like the different areas and factions. I think that this book has a really good villain in it. I actually quite enjoy, I forget his name, but like the leader of the orders. I think that he's just very interesting. He's not so villainous that like everything he does is just for the sake of being a villain. Like, he's got very clear and good motivations in my opinion, and I think that the way that he's like talking to them about why he's making these decisions is so interesting, because there's been a couple times where they were like, yeah, I wouldn't do anything differently, and that's why I'm glad I'm not in your position, because the way you're handling this sucks, but we would all handle it that way, kind of thing, like after power and being greedy for power. So I really do like that. The romance is still just fine. It's a little bit more present in the second book and talked about a little bit more, so I'm hoping that that will end up making me attached to it more, but right now I am enjoying getting the extra POV, getting more of that voice in the head and that backstory. So there's more for me to grab onto at the current moment than there was in the first book. So that's exciting. That's promising. Keep your fingers crossed that it stays that way for me. Okay, final thoughts on the Blood Witch. I did like this one a lot better than book one. I feel like there was just more happening in this. We got a little bit more of the plot and like finding the brother and what was happening there and all of those different things. I do feel like they became a little bit more romantic in this one as well. I still think the romance is relatively weak, but it is getting better and stronger with this installment. So overall, I don't really have a lot to say about these books. They just are generally fine for me. They're quick, easy reads that I do like enjoy listening to while I'm reading, but I just still don't feel like this is going to be a series that sticks with me. However, I will say that the ending was very interesting. There were a few things that happened. The magic system got a little bit stronger, and then there was a cliffhanger at the end of it. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about the cliffhanger. There was a plot device brought in this book. I think it was this one. It may have been the last one. And I didn't really think much of it at the time, but now I'm seeing why she brought it in. So I am curious how I'm gonna feel about that in book 3, but we're gonna see how it goes. I could be fine with it, it could be done fine, or I could absolutely hate it. So we're gonna see how that ends up going. But so far this one was better, and I'm gonna give it a 3-star. I think that it did get stronger, and I'm hoping that the finale just gets even stronger in a lot of ways, because if it does, this is a series that I can confidently say I enjoyed, I would recommend to certain people, but it really just depends on how the last book goes. Bryn, why is now the time that you want to eat your food? I don't know if you guys can see her. She's chowing down back there. Ignore all this mess. I didn't realize y'all could see that. Okay, we're gonna come back this way where you can't see all of the messy that is behind me. But I've been playing Disney Dreamlight Valley for like the last 3 hours. I did make myself get to at least 50% of Children of Fallen Gods, so I have done that. I don't have the book. I never went and got it out of my office because I've been reading it on my Kindle, but I did manage to get to 50%. I have been playing so much of Dreamlight Valley. Cassidy told me to try it. So many friends have been playing it, and I have been absolutely loving it. I did manage to get the Frosted Heights open though, so I'm hoping that means that I can start working on the new thing that's out right now with their recent update, and I can actually get to meet Olaf, which is very exciting, but it wouldn't let me interact with what I needed it to, so that was quite rude. Like I said, I made it to 50% of Children of Fallen Gods, and I am enjoying this book a lot better than I was book 1. I think that I just went into this one with slightly different expectations. I am not here for Tisana and Max's romance, and that's okay. It is a little bit stronger in this book, like the romance part of it, but I still don't feel like I'm super invested in them as a couple, but I am enjoying the world and the magic system and how all of that is working. We did get a new POV, which I think I told you guys about in the last update in this book, which I am really liking. I just think that it's so interesting and like the magic and what they're able to do, and then I want to know like how that relates to the main story, and we still haven't figured that out yet. I think that Affy is a very intriguing character, especially with what she's been through, and the romance that is starting to develop in that POV I'm enjoying more than our main romance. So I don't know what that says, but they've got really good chemistry, and so I'm excited to see that blossom and develop a little bit more. I do think that for me, she's moving things a little bit quicker than I would like. We've got so many cool scenes happening. There was one with like monsters with blurred faces. There was a prison that was sentient, but all of it is moving so quickly. So I feel like I'm not getting a good handle on something and appreciating how cool it is before we're moving on to the next scene. But then we'll drag out the scenes of like conversation. So I do think that the pacing could be better for me. I want to know more about this like cool magic stuff that's happening and less about the day-to-day, oh well, this guy is really young and he doesn't need to sign up for the military type things. Like my focus and my interest is in other spots. So I'm just hoping that we get more of it, because that will definitely make the book a lot stronger for me and make me enjoy it more overall. So keep your fingers crossed for me that we continue to get more of that, especially in book 3, because so far I am enjoying it better. Where's my Celsius? I'm gonna need all the caffeine today. Today is my grandmother's Christmas, and we're going to my cousin's house, which is fine. She's got 4 girls, so it's gonna be a lot of kids running around and loud, and I woke up with a migraine this morning, so it's gonna be a fun day. I'm really excited to see them. I'm excited to see my grandmother. It's gonna be a lot of peopling today, and this is like the most peoply Christmas that I have to go to now. Most of the time, the rest of it is just like more immediate family, which is much easier to deal with. But I'm excited. I think it's gonna be a fun day. I just wish it wasn't so far and wish it wasn't going to be so loud. But I know everyone here can probably relate to some Christmas gatherings that you are not exactly looking forward to despite loving your family. I don't have to take anything for that. My mom did all the cooking and then I'm just going to drive over there. It's about 45 minutes away, so I'm not sure yet if I'm going to ride with my parents or if I'm going to drive myself. It really just depends on how long they plan to stay, because I'm going to be a hello, how are you, eat and leave kind of individual. Part of me just wants to sit in silence on the way down there just to enjoy it for a little while, you know? But girl has got to get things done. This vlog is taking far longer than it was supposed to. It's literally the 20th of December and I was supposed to be done this a week ago. So I have now finished, though, Children of Fallen Gods. This took me a lot longer than I wanted it to finish, but I am happy to say that I liked this better than book 1. I think that a lot of my issues with book 1 were a lot smoother in this one. I had some different issues with this, so it's gonna get a 4-star. I loved the world building and the magic in this. I think that the new point of view really added a lot of depth, and I adored a lot of the different things that we were getting and how that was being woven together. I did guess both of the twists at the end, but I thought that they were extremely well done. Both made perfect sense to the story, which is my favorite kind of twist. I don't mind guessing and being correct if it makes sense to the story, and this one absolutely did. I was very pleased with the way that both of those reveals happened, so I'm excited to see what the repercussions are for that moving into the finale. There were so many cool things in here that were introduced, both past and present, and I do think that the pacing is where I struggled a little bit in this. I apparently was told that a lot of people find this one to be the slow, drawn out book. And in a lot of ways, I would agree with that. There were definitely moments where I felt like we were moving very slowly, but then a lot of the moments that I was super interested in, all of the like cool world building stuff, she just kind of buzzed through. And I was like, wait, slow down, back up, tell me more about that. I want to know what's going on. Like, let's not just have this scene and be done. I want more into this. Let's dive deeper and not spend as much time talking. She spent more time on like the political talking and less on the maneuvers, I think, which is not my favorite version of politics, but I could still appreciate the world building and I can appreciate the politics too. Like, it needed to be there. I just wish that it had been the not drawn out part and the drawn out part had been the cool stuff, but that's a personal preference. I do think that Max made a lot more sense to the story in this one. He had a lot more of an impact, which I was very happy to see because I probably hurt a lot of people's feelings with my opinion of him in the last book. I still am not obsessed with the romance. It's there, it's fine, it makes sense to the story, but I just don't have any stake in it. If they're not together, fine. If they are together, also fine. So that is a little bit frustrating, but this doesn't feel like a romantasy to me. This book, this series feels like a fantasy and not a romantasy in my opinion. It's like a fantasy with a hint of romance, not a primarily romance focused story. So I think if you go into it knowing that and expecting that, you would probably like it better. And I did know that from other friends that had read it that it had similar complaints. So I was a lot more prepared and willing to like shift my brain a little bit faster. Whereas Serpent and the Wings of Night, the Crowns of Nyaxia series, is a lot more focused on the romance. Really enjoyed this. I think she does villains really well. I said that in the Crowns of Nyaxia series too. It has one of my favorite, most complex villains, but I think this also has that. I'd already told you about one of them, but we got another that we knew that they were a villain-ish, but not like a true villain until the end, but also like true villain is a loose term because of everything that they had to do and why it was being done is not necessarily the most cruel of motives. Like, the motives are good. So I just find that that juxtaposition in character depth is so intriguing and I really loved it. Even with our voice in the head trope and like how she was developing that character, I thought was really well done. So 4 stars for me. Really enjoyed this. Glad that I enjoyed enjoyed it. And next we have to move into the finale, Mother of Death and Dawn. I'm really glad that this was a win. That means I don't have to unhaul them off my shelves, and that me putting it off I actually think was the better move, because I'm in a place now where I can appreciate the more fantasy elements of this, where I'm not sure if I would have been if I had read it 3 or 4 years ago when I first picked up the series. So very glad that I waited and glad that it is working out in my favor. Hopefully you can't hear my air fryer in the background. Dinner is in the oven. I've been trying this new marinade that I found online. It's balsamic vinegar, Dijon mustard, soy sauce, Worcestershire sauce, and brown sugar, and then like a little bit of garlic pepper and oil, and it is so good. I just marinate chicken tenders in it for like, I don't know, 30 minutes, and then pop it in the air fryer for 10 to 15 minutes, make some like potatoes or green beans with it, and I literally have dinner in 10 minutes after the marinating. It has been fantastic. I will get sick of it eventually, but I'm not sick of it yet, and it's been great. So I wanted to update you guys on the third book in the Osseous Chronicles, the Bound Witch, I think is what it's called. This one has started off a lot faster, started off with a bang. I felt like we had less of those slower get started moments. We immediately kick off where book 2 left off, and I am still on the fence about the trope that I was telling you guys about. I don't know how exactly it's going to be done. I'm about 30% of the way into this so far, and I understand why it was there, and I'm curious to see how she continues to play off of it and how she makes it make sense to the story other than just being like a plot device. So I'm hoping that it gets there, because I could really not like it, or it could be completely fine. I do think that it has added some emotional impact that we didn't get to see in previous books that I did like. I just felt like the characters themselves, as well as the plot, but mostly just the characters, were missing a lot of depth for me. We were focusing a lot on Lennox being like this quirky, funny main character, and Rogan being this macho, brooding man, but they just don't have a lot more to them than that. And I am not, like, I don't care about the romance. I don't necessarily care a lot about them as characters. I like them. They're fine. They're fun to read about, but I'm just not overly invested. We also spend an absorbent amount of time talking about this dog's farts, and I really don't understand it. I'm like, why is this scene taking so long? And I know that she's putting it there for comedic relief, but unfortunately it's just like, what? Why is this here? So right now I'm just still kind of like, these are fine. It feels like the rest of the books. It's not anything groundbreakingly different so far than the other two, but it's okay. I just want to be like invested in this series, and I am sadly not, but this edition is too pretty. Honestly, I think I'm going to keep it regardless, at least for now, because I don't want to get rid of it. It's stunning, it's beautiful, and it belongs on my shelves. So for the moment, I'm not planning to unhaul it. If I just like rage hate the end of book 3, then it's possible that I could want to like throw it out, but it's too pretty. Right now it's staying with me. I'm going to be a book hoarder, and it's just going to be okay, because my shelves bringing me joy also includes pretty things. I have started and finished a series in this vlog, and that is the Osseous Chronicles. So I have finished The Bound Witch, and I did like the ending a lot better of this one. We had a scene in here that was kind of like a courtroom scene that I thought was really different and really fun. I've never really seen anything quite like that in this type of book before, and I really liked the way that it was done and the back and forth and how the magic worked. We had demons brought into the fold, which I thought was a really interesting addition. So overall, I did really enjoy the ending of this book. I think I'm going to give it a 3-star, because there were parts that I just felt like were a little bit convoluted, a little bit convenient, especially the trope that I keep telling you about that I don't want to tell you what it is. But I just felt like a lot of that was done for convenience, to make the plot easier and to keep her from having to work as hard to come up with interesting things. We could just make it dramatic by doing this, and then it was all going to be okay kind of thing. So in the end, it still gets a 3-star, but I am happy that I liked the ending of it overall, and I'm not just wanting to throw this book out the window. So I will be keeping this edition. I'm very excited about that. Overall, this is just a 3-star series. It's fun. It's palate cleansers. If you're looking for something super quick to just fly through and generally enjoy, then I would recommend, but I don't think this is going to be anybody's like new favorite series. It's just okay, good time kind of book, which sometimes is not a bad thing to read. So I am happy to be finally finished with this. So when I saw that Cover to Cover was doing Three Kinds of Lucky, I was actually really excited because I have not read anything by Kim Harrison before, but she wrote in that like old school paranormal romance urban fantasy days alongside some of my favorite books from like the early 2000s. So when I saw that this was going to be a new book by her, I was really excited. It sounded super interesting. We're following Grady, who is a sweeper, and essentially she is able to get rid of the waste that is created by mages when they do magic. So when you create something or do something with magic, there is a like excess that comes off of that is essentially like trash. It's kind of like eating your dinner and the plate or the takeout container that you use to do it has to go in the trash and then it gets dumped and taken somewhere. Similar concept for this world. She cannot do magic herself, but she is a great sweeper. She can touch the dross, touch the trash without it breaking on her and causing her to have bad luck. So I thought that this like type of magic system was super interesting. Really excited to read it. We start off with a pretty big bang where she goes into this office building. They have now hired her to come clean up a mess that somebody has left rampant. And she's really annoyed by this because mages are supposed to be able to bottle this up and dispose of it on their own. But it's essentially like littering where they just don't care. They throw it out the window and she's got to come clean it up later. Dross can also attract something called a shadow, and I don't fully understand that concept yet. Like, what is a shadow? How does it work? What all is it like going to do? Like, why is it so bad? But when she gets in there, she realizes that she's bitten off more than she can chew and there is shadow associated with it. And this whole scene was just really, really interesting. I think that the magic system in this is going to be really, really cool. I hope that it turns into a little bit more of a hard magic system where we get to learn more about how everything works and like what dross is and why it's put off, why it's eliminated in this way, what shadow is, and what the repercussions of shadow are, because we know that dross means that you will become unlucky, but we don't really know what a shadow is. And they have like these sticks that they can draw to it and ways that it is like tied and knotted. And I just want to know a little bit more about the intricacies of that. Also want more from Grady in general. I think that she is a spunky, fun character, but I think I need a little bit more depth to her. We know that something happened to her family. Her dad was killed and now she is basically being given hush money or guilt money from the guy that got her dad killed. There's also Benedict, who is this professor guy that she apparently knew when she was in school, but they don't really get along anymore and she just thinks that he is stuck up and doesn't really want anything to do with him, who I'm assuming is going to be the love interest. So I'm excited to see all of this stuff develop. The audiobook for this is not good. The lady sounds like she is 60, 70 years old trying to read a 20-year-old. So I think I am going to switch off of the audiobook of this and sit down and read a little bit of it physically. But 50 pages, I am enjoying it. I'm hoping that it continues along those lines. Womp womp. I have been reading Three Kinds of Lucky on sprints, and I was really, really hoping that I would be coming back to you guys telling you about how much I'm loving this magic system and how interesting and intricate it is and how, like, hopefully the romance has a lot of banter because our female main character is so spunky, and I really wanted to come back and to tell you guys that, and I have been disappointed. This book is not delivering what I wanted it to. After that first initial scene, I feel like we are trying to hammer home what dross is over and over and over again, but it's a lot of words that is actually telling me nothing. I don't understand the magic system at all. Despite being 150 pages in, I really should have a much better handle on what this is, how it works, even if it's a soft magic system where it doesn't really have a how it works, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels like a complicated rules-based magic system that is not being bothered to be explained, but she's just throwing a bunch of words at you that make it sound like she's explaining it. So I'm confused and I'm like, I shouldn't be confused. Why am I feeling confused? And then I get frustrated and it's because it's not being explained very well. On top of that, I also just think that our main character is existing in her world. I want her to have a little bit more agency. I want her to go after things and take responsibility for things and to go after what she wants. And she is very spunky. She definitely is not afraid to tell somebody how it is, but she also just kind of exists through life. She doesn't really seem like she wants to be or to have much more than what she does. And I am a little frustrated by that. Then we bring in the romance. I know I have a lot of complaints. We bring in the romance, and Benedict could be interesting. He is the hot professor guy, but we also have friends to lovers, childhood friends to lovers, already not my favorite trope. And then they just barely interact. I am, like I said, 150 pages into this book, and they've had like 2, maybe 3 interactions because he essentially wants her to be the sweeper for this project that he has created, and she doesn't want anything to do with it because he's trying to basically transform the DOS, which sounds very interesting. Like, in theory, that concept, very cool. Could be a recipe for like them being forced together in close proximity and like all of this tension and all of this stuff, but then it just feels so bland and I'm bored. I feel like after that first scene that I actually had to read twice, by the way, because I didn't understand it the first time and thought it was just me not paying attention, I feel like nothing has happened. And this book is 500 pages, so maybe I just haven't given it enough time, and there's a possibility that I will come back to this and try to give it more time if I'm more in the mood for it. But right now I am just so frustrated by it that I don't want to pick it back up again. And it feels like at best this would be a 3-star read. So like, why am I spending a lot of my time on it kind of thing? So the first DNF of this vlog, whereas with the Osseous Chronicles, even though they were 3-star reads and there were definitely complaints that I had about them, I was still having a good time and didn't mind listening and picking up the books. I was actively getting in the car and turning on the audiobook. But with this one, I am avoiding it and not wanting to read it. Like, I picked this up, listened to it on the way home, filmed the vlog clip, and was like, oh yeah, I never thought about it since. I just wish, I wish for more from this. So we're going to put that down and we're going to start Mother of Death and Dawn. So that's going to end out this vlog with a bang, which is what I said I was going to start with, but obviously couldn't start with that one. Keep your fingers crossed for me that it continues the trajectory of Children of Fallen Gods, where I still love this one and it just keeps getting better, because so far we had a 3-star, then it was a 4-star. Could this be a 5-star read? I certainly hope so. With the way that Children of Fallen Gods like left off in that cliffhanger and all of the repercussions that could be happening, I am very excited to pick it up. So I'm going to put this one aside for now. I'm going to read Mother of Death and Dawn. Will I come back to it? I guess you'll have to stay till the end to find out. So this vlog is going very, very slowly, but it is going. I have actually made a decent amount of progress in Mother of Death and Dawn. I've actually read 25%, 30% of this today, which I feel very proud of myself for because she is not short. So 25% is like, it's a chunk. I think I read about 150 pages. Anyway, I think that the pacing issues that I was having are really starting to catch up to me in this one. I just need it to be consistent. And we are just doing a whole lot of nothing for the first, I don't know, 20-25% of this book. And then the last like little bit that I read on the way home was this super action-packed scene that didn't really like, there was no explanation to it. And we're drawing out things that I don't really need drawn out. A lot of political maneuverings, a lot of poor pitiful me because of things that happened at the end of book 2, which I understand. Like, I get why they are kind of in the dumps and feeling very defeated at the moment, as they should. But I like a character that is going to want to rally. I like a character that is determined. And in a lot of ways, they just feel very defeated and not like hyper focused, but not in a good way. I don't really know how to make that make sense. But given the explosive ending of book 2 and this like big climax, I was expecting for this to just really start off with a bang. And we had a scene or two where I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. That's where we are now. And then it just stalled. And so when we got to this big action scene that just happened and there are things starting to happen and we buzz through that and then we stall out again, it's just so frustrating because the pacing is doing like this. And it was annoying in book 1, fine in book 2 because there were things that I was grasping onto. So even though it was there and noticeable, I was willing to overlook it. But now that we're into this behemoth of book 3 and the conclusion, I just expect it to be doing more than it is. And I'm being very hypercritical of this at the moment, but it's just because I'm annoyed. Like, I want this book to be as good as it could be, but right now, the lack of explanation into what the heck is going on or why or how anything is happening, along with the super slow drawn out parts about things that I don't really think in the end matter, characters being thrown in at conveniences that have never been talked about before, it just feels like she needed more time to set this book up. Also, the dust jacket is not on right. I need to fix that. But it feels like she needed more time to set this book up instead of just making it a trilogy. It almost needed to be more books or something, because I am not really loving the way the pacing is happening right now. But also, I literally just realized this is completely creased in the wrong spot. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just creased in the wrong spot. Can I fix that though without it having a big crease on the front is the question. I'm not really sure if I can fix this. Better. Not great, but better. Okay. I have ordered Mexican food. I've been really wanting fajitas for some reason, so I ordered fajitas for just me. So I'm gonna go enjoy those, and it is almost Christmas, so I'm gonna sit and read by my Christmas tree, my twinkly lights, and just relax for the evening. So we keep talking about how behind I am. I'm really behind. It's Christmas Eve. I have been just a little bit procrastinating. I have been playing video games. I have been just existing, honestly. And I am still working on Mother of Death and Dawn, but I am reading this one faster than the other two, which is good. I am halfway. So I wanted to give you guys a quick halfway update on this. I think that the pacing has picked up a lot in the halfway point of this, which usually I find that books kind of lull in the middle. So I was excited to see that things are starting to happen at the midway point. We are having conversations with Tasana and Max and kind of resolving that beginning conflict, which I personally hated. I think that that was just being used as a plot device to give us the background and give us the development of their relationship that we should have gotten in book one. So I was a little frustrated by that, because I was like, where was all of this communication? Where was all of this longing? Where was all of these feelings in book one when I actually wanted that to be established? So don't give it to me in book three. So I just was a little frustrated by that. Even though I think it did its job, it didn't, like, it was in the wrong place. It was the wrong time. So I am glad that that part is starting to resolve and we are getting into more of the meat of the story. I need Affy's storyline to start to kind of come full circle a little bit, and for her character to dig in some, because the poor pitiful me part of the story is getting a little old, but we are starting to get there. And I know I'm sounding very hypercritical of this book, and I know everybody loves this series, but like, I can see where she took some of this stuff and put it in Serpent and the Wings of Night and like really expanded on the romance and the characters, and I know what she can do, so maybe that's why I'm being a little bit more critical of this series. I also think that Carissa is such a phenomenal writer, and I think she needed more time to develop the scope of this story. I think it was a little bit more ambitious than what she truly had time for in 3 books, and because of that I am missing some depth. And if she had had more time, maybe an extra book, and could have really devoted more of the depth to the world building and the magic that she's devoting to the politics, I think I personally would have enjoyed it more. A lot of that is just where my focus is and what I'm enjoying about the story. If you love politics, you're going to be fine with where the focus is in this, and it's not going to bother you. I don't think that some of the world building moments are a little bit quicker. So it's all in what you're reading this book for, but personally what I'm reading it for, I need her to dig in a little bit. So I am still enjoying this book. I am so glad that I have finally read this series, and I'm also so glad to have been starting and finishing it so that I don't drag it out for 500 years, because if I had just read book 1, I would have been planning to continue, but it would have taken me forever to do so. So today is a really busy day though. I really don't know if I'm going to get a lot of reading done, but I want that book finished. So I don't know what I'm doing today. I'm about to go over to my mom's in about an hour, and we're going to do our annual Christmas Eve baking. I wasn't really planning to bring you guys with me for that. Honestly, I was planning to be done this vlog a week ago. So I guess you might see some B-roll of like Christmas cookie baking. I think we're going to do cinnamon roll cookies, maybe snickerdoodle cookies. We do those every year though, so tempted to not do those this year. And was it chocolate chip? I can't remember, but I will update you on how the recipes are. And if they're good, I will leave them down in the description box. I think we're also going to play a board game. We're going to eat dinner. We don't really have presents or anything to unwrap. And then we usually watch like a Christmas movie. I don't know if we're going to end up watching Stranger Things though, because we're going to be going to the theatrical release of the finale. So we have to watch those 3 episodes as soon as they come out. So we might end up doing that. I'm not really sure. I don't know what the evening holds other than baking. So once we get started on that, I will update you guys later, but I don't know that there will be another reading update for a couple of days. We'll just see how much time I have. So you didn't get much B-roll of Christmas. Honestly, I was just kind of in the moment, and we didn't really do a lot worth filming. The cookies turned out pretty well. We did the s'mores double chocolate chip cookies, which I think was everybody's favorite, but it honestly tasted like a brownie cookie. And then we did the cinnamon rolls one, but honestly, they didn't turn out quite as well. They were really, really thin, and I don't know if we messed up somewhere because we were having to like freeze the butter and all of this stuff, so maybe we messed up somewhere. But anyway, these s'mores cookies were really good, and if I remember, I will leave the recipe down in the description box. I got it from Sherry, and I think that they made them as well, and theirs looks like they turned out even better than ours, but we only had the mini marshmallows. You definitely want jumbo marshmallows if you go to make those. And then we played Mysterium Park, which my family is not a board game family, and it was a very interesting experience. But it went pretty well. We played a couple of rounds of that, and then we went to the Tinsel Trail, which is like where all of the companies in the area decorate different kinds of Christmas trees. I think I did have a little bit of B-roll of that, but honestly, that's really mostly what we did, and then we rewatched Stranger Things. So just a very chill, relaxing Christmas Eve. But in the midst of all of this, I have finally managed to finish Mother of Death and Dawn, so it's time for my final thoughts of this series as a whole and of this book. In the end, this one might have been my least favorite, honestly, and the main reason for that is because I think I maybe put too much pressure on conclusions. I always want them to be the explosive one, the book that gives you all of the answers but also keeps the pacing up. We're like racing to the end, racing to the conclusion, and then once that's done, if you want to give a little like downplay for the characters to kind of recuperate from what happened, that's fine. But this should not be where my character work is. This should be where my plot work is. And yes, there's going to be character work in these books, and I want those moments of vulnerability. I want those moments of discussion and reflection. I do think that all of that is important, and maybe I shouldn't say that this is not where your character work is. It's not where your foundational character work should be. This is where your growth character work should be. And in my opinion, we did too much foundational character work in this, and it was just really slow. There was so much standing around talking, having these same conversations over and over and over again. While I loved what we got answers wise to the magic and how these were working and things that I suspected but were confirmed, I think all of that was done well and I enjoyed that. But this was far too slow for a finale. It did not need to be 700 and something pages. I just wanted things to be a little bit more neat. We just drug out for far too long, and all of that space that I said she needed another book, she could have taken out of here and put forth what I wanted out of it. And maybe this is just me being selfish because I wanted very specific things, but I just got to where I didn't care about the relationships. We were whining and dragging things out, and now I'm dragging things out. So unfortunately, in the end, this one was not my favorite. It's still getting a 3-star because I did not hate it, but I just felt like I never really wanted to pick it back up, and that's not how I felt about book 2. With this one, I just kept being like, okay, we're gonna open the book back up to another conversation again, and I wanted a little bit of action. I wanted there to be a little something going on because we're in the final book. What do you mean that there was an hour left and we barely had any action? So I liked it. I didn't love it, but I am going to be keeping the series, and I am glad that I read it. I was afraid that it was going to be a hate series for me, and I'm glad that it was not, but definitely not to par for Crowns of Nyaxia series. That one blows it out of the water for me. So I'm going to be putting this back on the shelf. Let me show you what it looks like. Okay, so this is what the final shelf looks like. I did lie. We did unhaul a book, and that was 3 Kinds of Lucky. So we're going to be putting Mother of Death and Dawn back on the shelf. And this is it. I have read everything now on this shelf and very happy with everything that's on here. It's mostly my Carissa shelf, and then we have Fairy Tale and Carrie Lake over here on the side. And then, like I said, I got rid of 3 Kinds of Lucky. So that is a wrap on the final one shelf of 2025. I am going to be carrying this series over into 2026. I don't know if it'll be every month. It may be more of an every other month thing, but I loved doing this series. I loved seeing, you know, my shelves and seeing how they changed and how they formed, as well as like reminding myself what was even here. Unhauling things, it just worked really well for me. So I probably will continue this into next year. But we started the year with 204 books and we started this video with 163 books. My goal was 100, so that is part of the reason we're continuing this into 2026 is I'm going to try to get it to 100 in that year. But we ended up finishing this video with 155 books because we read 8 of them, and I am so proud of myself for that. This is one of the biggest one shelf episodes as far as reading and not like DNFing a ton of books, unhauling a ton of books, and I just think it went really, really well, honestly. I'm so proud of it. So if you made it all the way to the end, you're gonna leave me a sword emoji for Tisana. As always, thank you guys so very much for watching. I hope you had the happiest of holidays, and I will see you in the next one.